Hey y'all. So we were having a discussion this evening and we wanted to share our thoughts on the importance of having relationship ground rules. And when I say ground rules, I'm referring to like the things that you will and won't do in a relationship just to make sure that both parties feel respected, loved, and heard, and that conflicts are resolved in a healthy way. So, can you name a few of the ways that people might be engaging in unhealthy communication or behaviors in their relationships?
Um, I mean, in regards with communication, I would say, I guess the biggest thing is your tone and verbiage and language that you use would be key factors in your in breakdowns in communication. Like I know for us, very early on, we set the tone on like not, I'm not gonna say we've never had heated disagreements, but I'm not yelling. I'm not gonna cuss at you. I'm not going to name call. I'm not going to um, throw things in your face, whether it's things I know about you or past experiences. I'm not going to let that kind of carry over into a difficult conversation,
Yeah.
because those are key ways to just for a conversation to just go left like off the rip. So I think understanding that is key, and then really just keeping in mind the goal of the conversation or the goal that I'm trying to reach, I guess, in bringing something to you or having a difficult conversation. Like, what am I trying to accomplish here, and what's the best course of action, the best way to present this so that you can receive it, and making sure having that mental check inside, like, all right, I'm gonna present this, and I'm gonna make sure I present it in a way where it's rooted in love and truth and respect, I
Yeah.
guess, or some of the key pieces. Um, Other ground rules, I would say, as far as a relationship goes, outside of communication, is um, ultimately having. I mean, part of this entails you guys knowing and having those boundaries set up front, but just having a basic foundation of what each person believes in terms of a relationship, like whether it's monogamy or um, I don't even know, just friendship boundaries, different things like that. I mean, it could be something as far as um, I don't know. Like for me, I'm a homebody, but it might be the guy that goes out or hangs out with his friends or whatever, having respectable uh, time limits and constraints on what your external relationships look like outside of the relationship, or what you do and don't divulge to family and friends or different things like that. Um, I feel like all of those can kind of be um, pluses and detriments to relationships if it's not set up appropriately, or if there's not a baseline or a foundation that you guys have where it's like, this is how we're gonna go at this is what we our expectations for the relationship.
Yeah. I think it's really important, like you said, to have expectations for the relationship because a lot of us think things are common sense, but
Mm,
everybody has different beliefs and expectations. And it's best to put it out there on the table to make sure that both parties are on the same page. And most importantly, that both parties are in agreement that
yeah,
this is how we're going to conduct ourselves in a relationship. Another thing I think is really important is how you choose to govern yourself. Because if someone hurts you or disrespects you, if you don't have a basis
yeah,
or an idea for what you will and won't do, you'll find yourself acting out of character.
yeah.
So like I said, it's really important to figure out who am I and how will I respond, or how do I want to respond regardless of what somebody does to me.
Yeah, just to touch on that a little bit as well, that's something that I learned in our relationship, and that I kind of try to preach to some of my guy friends, like when they kind of come to me and tell me little gripes that they're having. It's so easy, like you said, to let your character waver based on the circumstances.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect at it by no means, but there is a baseline that you have to set for yourself, especially as a man. If you really want to show up and really call yourself a leader, really be in headship, you have to kind of really maintain being even keeled. You have to really maintain being able to ride those turbulent times. And I guess if you don't have a set standard on like, hey, regardless, like that's something for me. Like I feel like regardless of what you do, I know this is the man I want to be. This is how I want to operate.
Yeah.
This is what I will and won't do, regardless of what you do on your end, because this is the standard I want to carry for myself.
Yep.
And not letting it waver or because to me, I guess when I think about like that, like your character is your character. Like, so for me, like whether it's a respect issue or anything like that, like I'm not, my respect or how I approach you or how I communicate with you isn't gonna be based off of how I feel like you're treating me that day.
Yeah.
Or the love I felt like I got, or the tone you gave me. Like for me, I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be, and I need to lead with that, because as soon as you allow that to be altered, you're setting yourself up for failure. Or and also, I don't really feel like you can really truly be true to yourself or true to have a true identity as far as yourself as a man if it's up in the air how you'll act.
Yeah, if you letting a woman's decisions impact who you are or how you move.
Yeah, so I think, and that goes both ways. I think even for women, the same thing. Like we've been through rough patches, and for me, like I think what society tells you or what we kind of see happen, if you kind of took that perspective in times where you were unhappy with me and were within our relationship, you know, you could have been cheating on me, you could have been out here in the streets, or you could have left me, or you could have done all these, you know, different things. And I'm thankful. Once again, that's a common thing y'all gonna hear from me, is me being thankful that I had somebody that was level-headed. I had somebody that was dedicated, you know, I would say even more dedicated even when I wasn't all the way where I needed to be, or I wasn't putting in the same level of work, that I had someone that had that temperament and that didn't let my feelings or my shortcomings dictate the love and respect that you were gonna offer to me.
Yeah, and it's so easy in a relationship, and I was tempted, you know, early in our marriage to like feel like I need to do something in order for you to understand that I'm not happy with your behavior. But something that he told me early on was like, don't ever change who you are or let your character waver based off of what I'm doing. If I'm doing wrong, if I'm messing up, let me be wrong. You don't have to join me in that space. And that's something that really, well, initially when you said it, I was upset. Like, why the heck should I have good behavior if you don't have good behavior? But I'm happy that you challenged me to like stay focused and to stay resilient instead of allowing our temporary circumstances to alter who I was at my core. And that's essentially what we're trying to get you all to understand, is like, first things first, figure out who you are and what you stand for and what you won't allow somebody to do to you. And then once you have those standards in place, make sure that you find somebody who has similar standards and values so that you all can agree about how you're going to conduct yourself within the relationship. And then that'll give you the foundation you need for success. But if one person is committed to being respectful while the other person is committed to being disrespectful and yelling and arguing, it's going to be a disconnect. The relationship dynamic is going to be very toxic. If one person is committed to, let's say, talking out their problems while the other person runs to social media, it's going to be a disconnect in the relationship. If one person is committed to monogamy while the other person feels like my fidelity is based on if I'm happy in the relationship or not, there's going to be some relationship dynamic issues. So it's really important that you, number one, figure out how you want to govern yourself, like I said, despite what anybody else does. And then number two, find somebody who's on the same page as you and who has the same goals and values. Because if you want to like get on a deeper level, if you really think about relationships, it's meant for two people to come together to face the world. But if you're in opposition to those in your home, you're missing the bigger picture. It's not just about you.
Yeah.
It's about you as a unit, and it's about everybody who's impacted by you. It's about anybody who observes you. It's about your children. And I'm not saying that, as a couple, you shouldn't benefit from your relationship. But if you listen to like your fleshly desires, you're gonna be out of bounds. It takes a lot of resilience. It takes a lot of sacrifice, and it takes a lot of self-control and discipline to say that even though it would feel good in this moment to get disrespectful, even though it would feel good in this moment to wild out, or even though it would feel good to respond to that DM that I don't have no business responding to, I'm not going to do that because I've chosen to govern myself in this way, and I'm going to be 100% committed to this relationship, or I'm going to be 100% out. I'm not going to straddle the fence, and I'm not going to use the person that I'm with as a placeholder until I find something better. You know what I mean? And I think that even boils down to character. Do you want to be the type of person that uses somebody, like I said, as a placeholder to suit your needs when you know that you really don't hold them in that regard?
Yeah, I'm big on the whole seat filler and placeholder situation. Like, I think it's so easy to move, like, really ain't nobody standing on business. Like, I think a lot of time, and that's where I think the space filler and seat filler situation comes from, because it's like, all right, I'm willing to accept this or take this temporary nonsense, or dealings with people that don't really hit the mark for me, but I'm gonna resent them behind closed doors, or I'm gonna keep one foot in, one foot out behind closed doors for the next best thing that comes. And it ends up becoming, either a revolving door or this stagnant space where nothing really gets resolved, or there's no real growth there, because either you're constantly flipping through people and you don't have enough time or tenure in to deal with something, or when you're in the midst of something, you don't want to put that actual work in. Like, so many people run from the work that is
it's inevitable.
Inevitable, essentially. Like, so that's what I think people just really don't understand, is like, you're joining with someone. It's a union, and as much as we want to fight it, as much as we want to put this new age spin on it, on relationships and what it means to have relationship, the basics and the foundation of what it is there. And as long as we're fighting that process, you're going to continue to get the same results, or until you're, as long as we're willing to play around with people and tell ourselves like, oh, I'm willing to do that, just not with this person.
Yeah.
Like, that's the equivalent, I feel like, for the women. It's kind of like, oh, I'll be subservient, or I'll be this woman, or I'll be loving, and I'll be this respectful for the guy that deserves it, or the guy that makes me or puts me in that space, as opposed to,
this is who I am, this is how I carry myself, this is how I choose to interact in a relationship, and I will only date men who are the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Or, who, I don't know what I might not be saying it the right way, but if I know that I'm a type of woman who wants to carry myself in a certain way, I'll develop standards and values that would align me with men who I'd be most compatible with. But when you aren't yourself because you feel like the dating pool doesn't allow you to be yourself, you're going to keep getting the results, and you're going to keep connecting with the people who align with how you're behaving. So we don't want to speak too long on here. I just wanted to hop on and share some of the thoughts and conversations that we've been having, and most importantly, encourage you all to have these conversations in your own homes, with your own partners, amongst yourself, so that you can have healthier relationships. So good night.